Her voice cut through the silence like a blade, clear, fluent Chinese rolling effortlessly from her tongue. Moments before, the billionaire CEO had been sweating, trapped in panic as a room full of foreign investors grew restless. And then, from the corner where no one had even bothered to look, the maid, the one everyone ignored, stepped forward and changed everything. The boardroom was suffocating with tension. A long, polished table stretched beneath glittering lights, surrounded by powerful men in dark suits, their faces unreadable. At the head sat a woman whose name carried weight across continents, a billionaire CEO, known for conquering industries and bending markets. But now, for the first time in years, her hands trembled. The Chinese investors sat across from her, speaking rapidly, their words sharp and fast. She couldn't understand a single one. Her translator, the man she trusted, was nowhere to be found. Minutes dragged on, and with each passing second, her confidence slipped further away. The stakes were impossible to ignore. Billions hung in the balance. Reputations. Futures. Her empire. The room was too quiet, the silence broken only by the impatient shuffle of papers and the clipped words of the visitors she couldn't answer. Sweat touched the edge of her collar. For the first time in her career, she felt powerless. And then, it happened. From the back of the room, where she had been quietly pouring water and clearing cups, the maid spoke. Her words flowed in flawless Mandarin, calm, steady, and precise. Heads snapped toward her, disbelief flashing in every pair of eyes. The men across the table paused mid-sentence. The room that had been suffocating with tension now filled with something else entirely. Shock. She was just the maid. The woman no one noticed. The one with her hair tied back neatly, uniform pressed but unremarkable. Yet her voice carried the weight of understanding, the bridge between two worlds. The CEO's chest tightened as relief washed over her. But more than relief, there was awe. Because no one in that room knew the maid's story. Years ago, she had been a student with dreams far beyond the walls of this city. Her father, a soldier who had served with quiet honor, had taught her the value of discipline. Her mother, who worked nights in a factory, had taught her sacrifice. She had studied under dim lights, learning languages most of her neighbors had never even heard of. Chinese, French, and Arabic, words she collected like treasures. Yet when tragedy struck and her family fell into poverty, she put aside her dreams to survive. A cleaning job was the only door left open, and so she lived in silence, wiping tables, scrubbing floors, and carrying trays. A quiet shadow in a world that never asked for her voice. But silence did not mean weakness. Respect is not given. It is revealed in the moment you are tested, her father once told her. She never forgot. And now, here in this towering boardroom, that test had arrived. The investors leaned forward, listening to her words as she translated every phrase with care. Their stern faces softened, their questions flowed more freely, and their trust slowly returned. The CEO, once drowning in panic, now watched the room bend back toward balance, all because of the maid no one saw. The shift was undeniable. The power in the room no longer rested solely on wealth or titles. It rested in the hands of the woman who had been invisible until now. Sometimes the quietest person in the room carries the loudest truth, the CEO thought, her heart steadying. The investors nodded in agreement to terms they had nearly abandoned. The deal was saved, the empire was safe. But more importantly, dignity had been restored, not to the billionaire, but to the maid who had given her voice when silence threatened to destroy everything. As the meeting closed, the CEO rose from her seat and walked to the back of the room. Her steps were slow, deliberate, and heavy with meaning. She stopped before the maid and looked into her eyes, filled with quiet strength. You reminded me today, the CEO said softly, that true power is never about titles. It's about what we carry inside. Those words lingered, echoing deeper than the chandeliers above or the polished floors beneath them. And when the maid turned to gather the empty glasses, the room full of executives, men who moments ago hadn't seen her at all, rose in silence. They didn't clap, they didn't cheer, they simply stood, an unspoken recognition of a dignity they could no longer deny. Because heroes don't always wear suits, and sometimes the most powerful voice in the room comes from the one nobody bothered to hear. Silent strength is often the most unshakable. Respect should never be measured by titles, wealth, or uniforms, but by the courage hidden in the quietest hearts. Wherever you're watching from, share your thoughts, comment below, and subscribe for more stories.